Yeah.
All right, we're live. All right, everyone, welcome back. Government Operations, Military Affairs, the 22nd of May, a little after 3 p.m. And we are going to hear about the instances of amendment on H686, lobbying disclosures. Council, how are you, sir?
Doing well. Thank you very much for having me, committee members. For the record, my name is Tim Devlin, legislative counsel. Let's see, I don't think there's a official as passed by, that's ready, still in drafting operations, but it was passed by. This amendment was passed by the Senate this morning and entails three changes really to what the House passed. Short, and then I'll get too long a little bit, but they will add some detail in the reporting requirements for advertisements or advertisement campaigns. Instead of modifying the definitions of advertisement campaigns, it keeps it as is, current law and maintained as, and then it'll change the effective date to upon passage, which is in July. So looking at these a little more closely, we'll see, orient ourselves in section 2, which will amend 2 VSA section 264C, that is the identification in and report of certain lobbying advertisements. The committee will remember that the part of the bill is found in subsection A for identifying advertisements, and that was changing. The proposed change in this bill is to make it all year round, not just limited to advertisements which can be identified during session, essentially. So A is identifying reports or identification in advertisement. In B, subsection B of 264C, has to do with the subsequent reporting that happens after the advertisements are released to the public. So we have here some unaltered requirements in B1, and then we go to B2, and B3 is actually completely new, but I'll get to that in a bit. So just to orient ourselves further, 1 requires that details the conditions of which a report is required. And that's essentially for any advertisement or advertisement campaign that totals in cost of $1,000 or more. 2, subdivision 2, that is, entails what needs to be contained in that report. And so we have existing language, things like lobbyist, shall identify the lobbyist, the lobbying firm, the lobbyist employer, who made the expenditure, the amount and date, and then in existing law, it said a brief description of the advertisement or advertising campaign. And here's where I have new language introduced, including let's see, division C, Romanet 1, any enacted or introduced bill or any issue featured in the advertisement or advertising campaign. 2, any specific person featured in the advertisement or advertising campaign. And 3, whether the intent or content in the advertisement advertising campaign offers an opinion of support, opposition, or neutrality on a bill, issue, or person. So, any questions about the additional reporting requirements as well?
You were sounding like you have a question.
This is a lot. This is like a lot of stuff in one bill that was pretty neutral, in my opinion, going to the Senate. So now there's all these things that lobbyists are going to have to be aware of and declaring in a report. Yeah, I think I need time to look at this.
Do you have questions?
I don't, at this moment, no.
Okay,
But I'm
let's finish.
happy to take questions.
Finish the.
So then we have a new subdivision 3 added here, and let's read it and then provide context. So notwithstanding subdivision 1, that is the reporting threshold of $1,000 a month, for the subsection, an advertisement report need not be filed if the lobbyist, lobbying firm, or lobbyist employer has already filed the necessary reports and disclosures required under 17 VSA Chapter 61, Subchapter 4 for the same advertisement or advertisement campaign. 17 VSA Chapter 64, Subchapter 4, that's part of campaign finance law, in particular, reporting for electioneering. And the Senate Gov Ops Committee took testimony and deliberated on the idea of, okay, now that these advertisements need to be reported year round, and not only just part of the legislative session, will that inevitably cover some period of time where during campaign season as well? Yes, by definition, because it's all there. And so then they were considering, okay, well, is it possible for an electioneering communication to be also considered an advertisement under this law? And to the degree where that may or may not be possible, whether it's possible purple in that Venn diagram, if you will, the issuer of the electioning, the advertisement that could be potentially considered either will only have to report according to the campaign finance laws and not here. They can also, if they want to, file under the lobbyist provisions, but they need only file under the campaign finance. And I can't really speak to how frequently that may occur, but their reading of the law, Senate Gov Ops considered a possibility, and so account for it here. And then we'll move to subsection C, definitions embedded in this section having to do with what defines was the definition of advertisement campaign. This committee will be remembered that will recall that there were changes slotted to these definitions. However, the Senate Government Operations Committee took out those changes, and so they opted to just have those definitions, those two terms be maintained in current law. Then the last thing is the effective date in section 3 of the bill. It was to take effect on July 1st, 2026, and they opted to change that to on passage.
A little bit more than I was expecting. Please.
My comment is just that we are in the election cycle already. And this is going to affect plans that firms may have. And I don't really know what the impact would be at this time of year to enact something like this. So I would need a lot more information. And I'm having a hard time digesting this, so I'm just gonna keep reading it over and over again. Thanks.
Okay. Yeah, no, I'm fine if you want to digest on this tonight. This is more substantive than I anticipated.
Can we have someone come in and explain why from Senate Gov Ops?
But they left already.
The reporter is Senator Bohowski.
Yeah, I believe the Senate is gone.
They're long gone.
Yeah,
Are we expected to take some kind of action on this today?
it was on the nice to have list, not the need to have list for today. It's fine to carry it over the next week.
I just kind of don't get it.
It doesn't appear to be on the draft. We're gonna look at this tonight.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm fine with that. All right. Yes, roughly.
Yeah, maybe if next week we could hear from Sarah Bielski and maybe somebody else.
Whereas is this stuff?
Yeah.
I guess I could do it.
You're in my head, member. Wrap and
Just
go.
more than-
I was gonna ask to hear from some lobbying person, because I'd like a real world example of what this is.
If only you had been looking for one of them yesterday, the room was full.
Hmm.
That was the one.
Okay, so we'll hold off on this, until next week. And I guess, Rep Wazazak and Mr. Burnett. Still a conversation, so why don't we go offline until we can get those. Or actually, do you want to walk us through the changes? Yeah, I'm sorry, I got like Friday brain going right now.
Okay, by me, not sure if it's available yet. I just shared it with a community assistant, Nick. The House Ways and Means amendment that they passed, I think it was unanimously, just maybe an hour or so ago. And committee may recall that there's really just one substantive change to the Town of Stowe's charter, and that's to introduce a new section 904 regarding local option taxes. And there are general provisions for all, will affect all municipalities in Title 24 already. I think it's 138 off the top of my head. I have to double check that. But that enables all municipalities to impose, to assess 1% local option taxes of the three varieties. This would, and as Stowe passed it, allow them to assess at a 2% rate for those three categories of local option taxes. The House Ways and Means inserted a new section B here on page 1, and I'll just read that aloud because you don't have that at your fingertips. Notwithstanding any contrary provision of Title 24 VSA 138 or Title 32 VSA Section 3709. I'll get back to what those are in a minute. Of any local, notwithstanding those provisions of any, there's an extra time. If any local option tax collected in excess of 1%, 50% shall be paid to the local option municipal transportation special fund established pursuant to 19 VSA 306B, and 50% shall be paid to the town. So a few things to unpack here. It's a pretty rich sentence as far as hidden detail. 24 VSA 138, that's the standard local option taxing statute that enables all municipalities to collect. And it breaks down, or should say, kind of apportions the monies received from that. The way that it's 25% goes to the state, 75% is then returned to the town. So that provision needs to be not withstood because we're introducing a 50-50 split versus the 20-75. The second one is 32. Yes.
Sorry to interrupt you, but that 50-50 is just for the second 1%, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you.
32 VSA, section 3709. That has to do with the receiving fund. That's the pilot fund. That's where local option taxes go to. And so we're changing the destination there. So that has to be not listed as well. One other note is the local option municipal transportation special fund is not established quite yet. I believe that's in the budget bill and up for conversation right now. This committee, but committee conference there discussing the budget. And yes, but essentially the takeaway here is that that first 1% will be treated like how all towns treat it. 25 state, 75% returned. The second 1% is going to be 50-50, half going to this local option municipal transportation special fund, then half being returned to the town.
Rep Hago with a hand.
No, thanks. I think I just digested that. Okay. So that 50% that Ways and Means is proposing to give to the state only can go to this new local option municipal transportation special fund.
Then, if I'm reading this correctly, none of it goes.
Sorry?
None of it goes to pilot, right? Like the 25% on the first one.
Yes.
And then on the second point, it's a 50-50 town to transportation.
Yes.
So no pilot on the second point. Rep,
Not.
identify yourself for the record, please.
Representative Denny Wozniak, Berry City House Ways and Means. I think we're saying the same thing, just
Yes.
bingo. Not the transportation fund as in the transportation fund, but this local options tax municipal transportation
I was being pedestrian with my words.
Just-
Yes, thank you. Right, there you go.
Yeah, somebody's gonna have to remind me what this newly created, that isn't created yet, local option municipal transportation special fund is for, who can access it, and what does it do?
I would defer to my colleagues in JFO.
Thank you.
They're available off the top of my head.
Chris Root, JFO, the local option municipal transportation special fund, just gonna highlight the fund, is proposed to be, the Senate added it to their big bill construct. It is currently pending. It came out of Senate Transportation, but the thinking behind that is it creates a special fund where revenues would go into it and then be appropriated out through the annual budget process to V-Trans through some existing programs that support municipalities. And there's some verbiage in the E915 sections of H951 that came out of the Senate that spells all this out. But most of the money would be appropriated through town highway aid, which is distributed on a formula basis to all towns based on mileage. And money, if there's enough money in there to make sense, that money could also be appropriated to the existing grant programs for town highway structures and class 2 roadways. So this is envisioned to be sort of another pot of money that the legislature would draw upon each year through the budget to appropriate funds through existing programs that benefit municipalities. And the reason why it's a separate special fund and not just in the T fund is because these existing programs have statutory inflators in them. And this would sort of be icing on the cake that would be not included in the base for those statutory inflators. So it's a way of sort of keeping those funds separate from the rest.
Right, bingo.
Does anybody know if this special fund, I'm gonna call it the special fund
Thank
to,
you.
to differentiate it from the T fund. If the special fund is one of the items of disagreement in the committee of conference for the budget?
It is technically an item of disagreement. I expect once some other outstanding issues and other bills are resolved, it will quickly no longer become an item of disagreement.
So now I have a follow-up question, because I'm trying to look at the big picture here. So if Stowe, if we approve this, if Stowe is the only municipality at this moment that, assuming the Stowe charter passes, right? We got to go back to that. Assuming the Stowe charter passes, change passes both bodies and gets approved by the governor, there would be a 1% coming from the town of Stowe, one extra 1%. 50% of that 1% could go to this special fund.
It would go to the
Would
special
go
fund.
to this
and yet-
special fund.
And then it'd be up to you all to appropriate that money through the town highway aid program in the budget.
And that's part of the transportation
Yeah,
bill, the T bill.
it's in the transportation appropriations, yeah. And it's,
Okay. And that would go to any municipality.
it goes to all municipalities based on the formula.
Okay. Based on formula, important to know. Yep.
Red point.
Is it correct that there's like an excess of pilot funds currently holding on to, so the intent behind creating this special fund is to spread the wealth related to transportation?
Sort of, yeah. I mean, those are both true. They're sort of like, I wouldn't say they're apples and oranges. They're like apples and pears kind of. Like, they're both, there's two related conversations around local option taxes and money going back to towns. This 2% is sort of separate from the pilot fund issue, but you're right, it does have the pilot fund does have a positive fund balance and a positive operating
So like
position.
oranges and blood oranges.
I don't know what grocery
Clone
store you
times?
shop at, but I had a blood orange in a wall.
Rep. Evans.
I'm wondering, if this changes maybe what the the voters thought they were voting for. Lipsky, do you have a comment on that? No, you don't. Do you want to talk to it? Do you mind speaking to it?
Yeah, thank you for the record, Jed Lipsky, Rep. Memorial One. So, that's a thoughtful question. Clearly, without, we know that 19% of Stowe voters weighed in on this subject. And they probably assumed if they were following the news that typically the municipality receives 75%, the state receives 25%. So that one could assume. But they also realized it was a new type of ask. And so I'm not speaking for the voters, and I'm not speaking for the select board. But as the sponsor of the bill, I can speak to that. And first of all, I was a little surprised that I just got lucky and I ran into someone in the hall. They said, hey, there's a new amendment on your bill and we voted out. Sorry, we didn't let you know we were discussing. That was not in this committee. I was slightly forewarned about it. But that's decorum and that's, I bear no grudges on that. Like I come in the spirit of, maybe you'd call it egalitarian. Noblesse oblige is a little too inappropriate, but sharing the crisis of the transportation bill fund needs statewide. I feel that all citizens on deck, we are to get 50%. I will say in my discussions in February, March, and April with leadership in our community, I allowed that rumblings in the building, felt that the percentages may change. And there was a serious need in the operating red transportation fund. So I, speaking for myself, I think that the town is so leadership will not be shocked, and I think that given the needs of all of Vermont, personally think this is
Thank you.
And it is reasonable, what you said.
first thing. You know, we are fortunate to have capacity that few towns have in raising these two sectors of vision, and benefits. We know that we're not the only town struggling with these issues. That's my opinion as Bill sponsor.
And not to overstep here, but I would also just remind the committee and body at large that with this amendment, should it pass into law, still will get an additional 50% of this. If this does not pass, they will receive 0.
I guess that's just my concern because the vote was so close on it in the first place that maybe, but also it's charter, they can always come back and change it again. If they're like, we want all of our money or we don't want to share the money or whatever it is, it's always an option to change it.
Joe, sorry, Agent from Boyden.
No, I was just wondering if you took testimony in Ways and Means from folks.
We did not, Ways and Means reviewed this about 25 minutes ago. So because of his bad.
There was no.
That all feeds into my question of what, I think somebody mentioned that the vote was unanimous. And I'm also just curious about the conversation that you all having Ways and Means.
Yeah, there was a robust conversation. So the Ways and Means amendment was 10-1-0. And once that passed, the underlying bill was 11-0-0. And yes, we had conversation about the town of Stowe, and I want to hear from them, Representative Phillips was in the room at that time as well. And we did talk about, the intense needs that are being pressed on the transportation fund. And that this is a way to get more money to towns such as Stowe that have significant state roads within their municipality. And also conversation about the creation of yet another special fund, but it is a special fund that will allow more flexibility and more money to flow back to towns.
Cooper, Randolph.
One no vote?
On the Ways and Means Amendment, yes.
Who was that?
Representative Curtis over.
Representative from the gallery.
Thank you again, Jed Lipsky, Lemoyle One Stowe. Just reflecting back on my long life of learning. And I remember in my 20s, I learned the notion that a half a loaf better than no loaf. It was my
Okay.
first sort of question.
I kind of have questions. Yeah.
Representative Linsky, would you like to take a seat at the table perhaps?
Well, I mean, he's the one most likely to be able to speak to the perspective of the voters in town of Stowe, right? I mean,
I cannot speak to the voters on that subject. I can share that I have spoken with town manager who you've met and other select board and allowed that. There have been rumblings that the percentages may change due to other needs in the state. I have openly shared that with them. No one ever said, well, it's 75-25 or nothing. Never heard that.
Brett Boyden.
Well, I'm wondering if based off of that conversation, if they think that the 2% might change to say 1.5%, or if they understand that it's now being split with the special fund. That's what, so.
In my conversations with some leadership in the town, particularly the town manager, when there was a question whether it would even come off the wall or would it ever move this year, I said my understanding is around the body, not just our body, but the General Assembly, there are murmurings that we may want to change the formula of sharing from 75-25 to a lesser number to the municipality and target the what's now referred to as a local option tax special transportation fund. Does that answer your question?
Committee? Oh. I was taking this up as a straw poll. There's the desire to clean off the notice calendar and put it on the floor later. Rep. Hango?
I guess it puts me in an odd position because I voted against the Stowe charter change. So how can I really vote for this amendment if I think it's a good idea? If I were to think it's a good idea when I voted against the charter change, or are we voting on the charter change as amended?
We'd be taking a straw poll on the Ways and Means Amendment. And I mean, they'll get amended and then people find them favorable or unfavorable all the time.
Well, see, the thing is that the dilemma is whether I want to allow the extra 1% or not, regardless of where it goes. So I'm not really sure to do this.
Rep. Boyd and then Stone.
My thought process, and we all have different thoughts and processes, is does the amendment improve the underlying bill? And I think in a way it does. We all have different things.
And then we get a chance to vote on the underlying bill on the floor.
Correct.
Yep.
Rep. Stone.
Just wanted to remind you that UNVL proposed amendments to the cannabis bill, and then after we made those changes, he voted no on the underlying bill. So I think that shows.
That was in the committee process.
That was in the committee process, but it's still the same, like you're saying yes to the
We don't
question
have the
that's in
bill
front of you.
here.
You're saying yes to the question that's in front of you. Which is this, you're not being asked about the underlying bill. It's not voting on the bill as amended. You're voting on the amendment, which is a freestanding question.
Right, but we did vote on the bill as amended with the cannabis bill in.
You do what you want to do then, but I'm just saying, I think it's on the amendment, correct?
Taking a position on that, good language, correct. Any other comment or thoughts? Yes, Brad Hoover.
This morning I thought I had a hard time voting no, because I don't like to disagree with the will of voters on charters. But I did kind of foresee some stuff like this coming. That's the reason why I voted no. So I'm curious, is it inappropriate for me to ask why she would like this and not the bill, or is that who? The vice chair? I'm just curious.
I don't know what I don't know how to vote on it. So I have not made up my mind, contrary to
I don't,
what
I'm,
other people might think
me,
on the amended language. Because I just saw it. I did not know it was coming from Ways and Means. I was not in that mood.
Yeah, no, we all put eyes on it at the same time, for the first time. Okay. Nice, so,
I could be wrong, and so I don't know if this is helpful clarifying, but I feel that this changes the bill. Obviously, it's an amendment, and like what's in here is kind of the new bill. So if that makes sense. I think it's a completely different thing now.
oh, this completely changed the entire philosophical dynamic of this thing. Yeah.
So it's like,
Rep Stone and then Hango.
Mason's rules also said that you can abstain from a vote.
Oh, sure.
Throwing that out there as a reminder, if people are grappling with, if they don't know whether to vote yes or no, and always abstain.
Rep Hango.
I was just going to say it just changes the entire intent of what the voters in Stowe voted on, and there was a small majority, if it was even a majority, it wasn't even a majority of the voters in Stowe voting, which we had that conversation already this morning.
Okay. Right.
just to make more clear, what I'm trying to say is like, when I voted no this morning, I felt kind of conflicted about that. I was like, is that even appropriate for me to do that? Not really, but like, now I'm pretty happy that I did, so.
Okay, folks. So Rep Coffin.
All right, so 19% of the voters voted up for this. There were 19% of the voters total voted on this charter change. There's less than 25% of the town. They voted on a certain thing. When they were voting, they didn't say, well, there could be a change, but we're going to vote for this anyway. The testimony we heard said it will give Stowe this much, it'll give the state this much. This essentially changes what they asked for. I was a no this morning because of the extra 1%. Because it would make Stowe an outlier and then could possibly lead to the entire state ending up at 8%, making us a higher tax state again. So regardless of what's being done with the 1% and how it's split up, how it's divvied, whose pocket it goes into, it's still that same 1% that I was against raising to begin with. So there's no philosophical problem for me on voting no on this amendment because I didn't like the premise of adding the 1% to begin with.
Okay, committee, so I'm being sent text messages that we need to break our committee conversation and head back up to the floor for a bill. So we're gonna hit the pause button here. And then that'll also give us some time to stew on this new language. But I would like to come back and take a position on this later today. So and soon, just keep an eye on the phone.
Okay.
So we're gonna hit hold right now. And come back once we can vacate the floor with other business.
Are we gonna leave before?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yes.